Scano. My name is Brenda LaForme. I'm from the Onondaga Nation Beaver Clan, and today we are going to do hand tanning of deer hide. You got to remember, when you get a deer hide, you got hair on it and you got flesh underneath it. So I'm going to show you how to take that off, both sides, how to wash it, how to grease it, how to work it, how to stretch it. And we're going to get it to be leather so we can make some moccasins. Hand tanned deer hide is good to work with. You can also buy factory tan. We call it factory tan hide, and that's easy to buy, but you feel really good when you do all the work and make a pair of moccasins out of hand tan. When you first get it from the hunter, the first thing you want to do when the hunter brings you a hide is you want to get that flesh off. And then you soak it in water to get the hair off. If you had a nice flash flowing creek with no critters around, animals around, you could put your hide in there, put a rock on it, stake it, and the water will take the hair right off. Not the flesh, you still got to scrape the flesh off, but the water will take the hair right off. When I say flesh, that's the underlining. That's how the hide is attached to the deer. When a skinner, a hunter, takes the hide off, he skins it. And there's still some fat. There's fat and there's a little pieces of meat. That you have to take off. When you take the hair off, after you soak it in water, because when you soak it in water or in the creek, it comes right off. And I use a draw blade to get it off. What's important when you're getting that hair off, and the reason why you soak it, is the membrane between the hair and the hide that holds the hair to the skin of the deer. There's a membrane, and that water raises it up and it's gray looking. You got to get that off. I use Fell's Napa soap. Just make sure there's no perfumes in it or bleach soap. It's bar soap, and I grate it up. I melt it in 2 cups of water. Then I throw that in a pail or a bucket, and I fill it up with water, and I put the hide in there, and I make sure that the hide is immersed in the water. You might have to put some stones on it to keep it immersed. And what I'm doing with that soap is it acts like a softener, but it also washes it, cleans the hide, and it smells better. It has a little bit of smell. If it gets too smelly, I can put a cap full of Downy in it. It's not going to harm the hide. If anything, it's just pleasing to my nose. I don't use the brains. I use soap, and I wash it. Some people will say brain tanned leather, and that's just where they're brain tanning it. They're putting, instead of soap, they're melting the brain of the animal, and they're washing the hide in brain tan solution. You can't do it all in a day. I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to take you anywhere from 3 to 5 days. We could do it in 2 days if we had muscle all day. And then I take it out and I throw it over the ringer, and I wrap it up in a towel or a flannel sheet, an old one, and you twist it and you twist it and you wring it out, and you're wringing out as much water as possible. But also, while you're wringing it, you're also stretching and breaking the fibers, and that's what you have to do to get your hide, your raw hide, to a soft leather. Because you got to look at it as wet. It's just like a wet towel. It's really wet and slippery. And you're wringing it out. And after you wring it out, then you take it to the stretching stake. There's another method of stretching as it's air drying. And you're using the wood, and I'm pulling the hide over it. And I'm pulling the hide over it. And I'm stretching it. But as it's air drying, you got to remember, when it's come out of the water and you wrung it out, it's wet. And what you're doing is you're breaking the fibers, but you're also letting the air take some of the moisture out. But if you let the air just dry it completely without you stretching, it turns to rawhide. You have to interchange between stretching, and what you ideally you'd like to have some young boys or young men muscle, and they will tug on this. You just got to keep stretching it, and whatever way is easier for you and less on the muscles, the shoulder muscles. So there is no one way that's better. They're all good and they're all needed, different ways to stretch it. Here's another method. If you have some young muscles, bring it over a stretching bar, what we call a stretching bar, and you just keep working it and working it, because it's drying out. The water's, you don't see the water dripping. When the moisture's out, it'll be soft, but if it turns to rawhide, then you haven't stretched it enough. The thing is, you got to keep trying to work the hide as it's air drying, because if you keep immersing it after 4 or 5 times, it'll start to disintegrate on you. It could just turn to mush. It depends on the hide too. Like if you have a thick hide, that's going to take you a bit longer. But if you have a thin hide, it doesn't take long. This is where you're hanging it to dry, to try to get some of the moisture out. Everything's overnight, given a night. Once in doubt, it means given a night. Before you do anything, it's going to take you a whole night, a whole day before you act on something. So that's what you do with these hides. Go once in doubt, overnight. I want it to get to rawhide because I'm going to lay it out and I'm going to grease it up. The pores I'm opening up from because it's wet and it's dried now, I'm going to grease it with bacon grease. And if I don't have bacon grease, well, ideally you would like bear grease, any grease I guess, but I use bacon grease. And if you don't have bacon grease, then you use corn oil, canola corn oil. And it's rawhide now because it's dry, and you grease it all up on both sides, fold it up in a flannel sheet or whatever, go on overnight, another 24 hours. And then you take it out, and because it's all greasy, you're not going to be stretching that day. It's all soapy or greasy. What you're going to do is you're going to put it back in the water with some more soap. Second washing. The grease acts as a softener. You want to get it in the pores. That's why you really rub it in and put it overnight, because you really want to get it inside the pores that you've already opened up through washing it and then drying it. I prefer to wash it with soap 2 times. Yeah, grease it. I only like to grease it once. It depends on the good grease you have. And you got to make sure that you have it 24 hours at least. You can let it go 2 days in the grease. It won't get too rancid smelling or anything like that. The process of smoking it is you put 2 hides together, and you're going to sew them together like a teepee. You're going to keep the opening open, and then you're going to put a skirt on it out of canvas, and you're going to hang that over a smoker. But you build a small fire of kindling, and then you put spruce. You put spruce on it. You see the punkwood down here, and I'm going to put that on the fire, and it's going to smolder. And I'm going to seal it off with these clothespins so none of the smoke. You'll see some smoke come out of the top, and that's okay. But you have to have a little opening so that you don't want fire to flame up. And now there's one side. Now you got to turn it inside out. That's why you sew them together. And we're going to smoke the other side. You don't have to smoke the other side as long. This is the side of the hair side, but on the flesh side, you don't have to smoke it as long. Well, there you have it. You now have a smoked hand-tanned deer hide. Now what am I going to do? I could make moccasins, I could make a tobacco pouch, I could bead on it, I could quill on it. Whatever it is that I'm going to do, I know it's going to be something for my family. just the way that I'm showing you, is that one day maybe my children will take this up. It's a long process, but if you keep at it, being consistent, you get a nice soft, just like a bath towel. And it's smoked and it smells good. The smell will eventually leave, but I like the smell of smoke. It reminds me of the longhouse, smells like longhouse. So the next thing would be to show you how to make moccasins, but then that's another time and another video. Until then, Ona.